There's a story most of us have absorbed without ever choosing to believe it, that getting older means slowly losing things, losing sharpness, losing joy, losing relevance. But that's not really what the research says. What the research actually shows is something quieter, and honestly, more hopeful than most people expect. So today, we're going through 10 things psychology has proven about aging. Some of them will surprise you, and one or two might genuinely change how you think about the years ahead of you. 1. Your vocabulary keeps growing. The Seattle longitudinal study followed people for over 60 years, one of the longest-running studies in psychology. And here's what it found. While some kinds of mental speed do slow down with age, vocabulary, word knowledge, and verbal ability often keep growing well into your 70s and 80s. You're not losing your mind. In some very real ways, your mind is still expanding. 2. Older adults notice the good more than the bad. Stanford psychologist Laura Carstensen calls this the positivity effect. As people age, brain imaging studies show something remarkable. Older adults' brains actually pay less attention to negative information and more attention to positive memories, relationships, and meaning. This isn't denial. It isn't looking away from reality. It's your brain, after decades of practice, learning what's actually worth its attention. That's part of why so many grandparents seem calmer than everyone else in the room. In a real, measurable sense, they're seeing a slightly different world than the rest of us. 3. Slower memory isn't the same as disappearing memory. Yes, recall can slow down with age. Misplacing keys, blanking on a name for a moment. That's real. But research from the National Institute on Aging is clear about something important. Procedural memory, how to ride a bike, how to cook a familiar meal, and emotional memory, how it felt to hold your child for the first time, tend to stay remarkably intact. Slower recall is a normal part of aging. It is not the same thing as dementia, and it's worth not confusing the two for your own peace of mind, and for how you talk to the people you love about it. 4. Loneliness is a genuine health risk, not just a feeling. This one is backed by one of the most cited findings in health psychology. Researcher Julianne Holt-Lundstad's work found that chronic loneliness raises the risk of early death by roughly the same margin as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. That number gets repeated so often it can start to sound like an exaggeration. It isn't. It comes directly from her own research team's analysis. The fix, though, doesn't have to be dramatic. Research on social connection suggests even one genuinely meaningful conversation a day measurably helps. So if there's someone you've been meaning to call, that's not a small thing. That's closer to medicine than most people realize. 5. Your brain can still build new connections. A study out of the University of Texas at Dallas took adults between 60 and 90 and had them learn new skills, digital photography and quilting, at the same time for 3 months. Afterward, their memory performance improved by an amount comparable to people 20 years younger. It's never too late to start something new. A language, an instrument, a recipe you've always wanted to learn. New experiences are one of the few things that genuinely seem to keep the brain younger. 6. You get better at managing your emotions. Research out of UC Berkeley's Aging and Emotion Lab has found something counterintuitive. Older adults are often measurably better at regulating their emotional reactions than younger adults. Brain scans show reduced activity in the brain's threat response regions in older adults facing stress, compared to younger people facing the same stress. Where a younger person might react first and regret it later, an older person is more likely to pause, reframe, and let it go. That's not weakness. That's decades of practice turning into something real. 7. Having a purpose adds real. Years. Research out of Rush University's long-running studies on aging found that people with a strong sense of purpose, a real reason to get up in the morning, had a meaningfully lower risk of both Alzheimer's disease and heart disease compared to those without. 1. Purpose doesn't have to mean a career or a big mission. It can be grandchildren. Volunteering, a garden, a faith community. You don't retire from purpose. In a lot of ways, you retire into finding a new version of it. 8. Relationships predict happiness better than almost anything else. The Harvard study of adult development has tracked its original participants for over 85 years, one of the longest psychological studies ever conducted. And its central finding, repeated across decades of data, is this. The strongest predictor of happiness and health in later life wasn't income. It wasn't fame. It wasn't even physical health. It was the quality of people's close relationships. If you're looking for where to invest your time and energy as you get older, this research suggests the answer is remarkably simple. The people you love. 9. Happiness follows a U-shape, and the later years are the upswing. Large-scale research out of Princeton and the National Bureau of Economic Research, drawing on data from roughly 500,000 people, found something genuinely surprising. Happiness tends to dip through your 40s and 50s, then rise again through your 60s and 70s. Older adults, on average, report less daily stress and more day-to-day contentment than almost any other age group. If the middle years felt like the hardest ones, that's not just your imagination. And there's real reason to believe the years ahead may actually be lighter, not heavier. 10. Gratitude genuinely changes the aging brain. Neuroscience research on gratitude practices has found something worth taking seriously. Even a brief daily gratitude habit, just a few minutes, is associated with increased activity in the brain's reward pathways and reduced stress hormone levels. In older adults specifically, studies on gratitude practices have linked it to improvements in sleep quality, pain perception, and mood in as little as 2 weeks. 3 things you're grateful for every night. It sounds almost too simple to matter. The research says it does. Closing aging isn't the story of decline that we've been told it is. It's a different chapter, one where, according to the actual research, your vocabulary can keep growing, your emotional wisdom can keep deepening, and in many measurable ways, your happiness can keep climbing. You're not old. You're experienced. And the research is finally starting to say so, clearly.